Parshas Vayelech Tov Shin Pei. We could finally say it's the new year, Tov Shin Pei. I have to get acclimated, I have to get used to saying Tov Shin Pei. But it's, besides for Parshas Vayelech, this Shabbos has a very, very special name. And this Shabbos is Shabbos Shuvah. What does Shuvah mean? Shuvah means, we're going to explain exactly what it means, but the Haftarah that we read this week begins with the word Shuvah. And we are now actually in the days between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. And as we mentioned, this Shabbos, the Shabbos between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur is called Shabbos Shuvah. And Nesivos Shalom tells us that this week is called Shabbos Shuvah not just because it happens to be that this Shabbos falls out in the days between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, and the Haftarah that we read begins with the word Shuvah. That's not really just why this Shabbos is called Shabbos Shuvah. The Nesivos Shalom tells us that Shabbos Shuvah means that this day of Shabbos is an ikar, is the main part of the days of Tshuva, the days between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. And Shabbos the Shabbos day itself is actually a very vital part of this process that we have from the beginning of Elul to Rosh Hashanah to Yom Kippur. Shabbos between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, this Shabbos is really a very, very vital part in the process. And the Sforim HaKadoshim tell us on the Pasuk in Shir HaShirim, the Pasuk says, Ani Yishena V'libi Er. What that means, actually, the translation, that I am asleep, but V'libi Er, but my heart is awake. And the Sforim HaKadoshim tell us, you know what this pasuk means? Ani Yishena means, it's alluding to the Yemois Hachol, Ani Yishena, I'm asleep. It means during the days of the week. But V'libi Er, my heart is awake, that is referring to Shabbos Kodesh. A very interesting way of translating this pasuk. And just like, say the Svarim, just like the physical goof of a person, that even when a person, your entire body is asleep, but you know that your heart is still working. Your entire body could be asleep, and hopefully, right, Baruch Hashem, your heart continues to beat even while you're asleep, while many of your other faculties are, so to speak, on sleep mode, they are at rest, but your heart, V'libi Er, your heart continues to work. And so too, the Shabbos Kodesh is your heart, is a person's heart. It's the heart of the central part of your week, the central part of a person that keeps a person going, just like your heart keeps you going while you're asleep. When it comes to the whole week, Shabbos Kodesh is what keeps it going. Okay, so what does all of this have to do with us now? So Nesivos Shalom explains. The Rambam tells us that the call to tshuva, the call that comes out to us between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, is the following call. It's Uru Yishenim Mishenaschem. Wake up, those who are sleeping, wake up from your sleep. V'nirdamim hakitzu mitardamaschem. And those that are in a deep slumber, awake, arise from your deep slumber. The question is, the Rambam is telling us that is what these days of tshuva, that is what tshuva is saying to us. Uru yishenim mishenaschem, v'nirdamim hakitzu mitardamaschem. The big question that we always have on this is, what does it mean? Do you ever walk over to a person? I mean, unless you really take the person and shake them and wake them up, Imagine you walk to a person's asleep in the room, and you start chatting. It's time to wake up. 1 second. The person is sleeping. They're not listening to you. So what do you mean? Uru yishena mishein aschem. Wake up. Now, unless you really go and shake the person and scream at them, you just start talking and you say, wake up, they're not waking up. So what does it mean that the call to tshuva is that the person is actually sleeping? We know also, Chazal tell us that every day a bas kol goes out from Har Chayre, goes out from Har Sinai, and says, Shuvu vanim shayvavim. Come back to me, my children, my precious children, come back to me. The question is, have you ever met anyone that hears this bas kol, right? This bas kol, it's an important thing. It's telling us to do tshuva. It's coming out from Har Sinai, but nobody hears it. So what's going on here? On one hand, we have the tshuva, uru yishena mishein aschem, where the person is actually sleeping. They don't hear it. They're in a deep slumber. They don't hear what you're saying. And then there's a bas kol coming out of Har Chorev that says every day, Shuvu vanim shevavim, my precious children, come back to me, but nobody hears it. So what is going on? So Nesivos Shalom tells us that this is what V'libi er, my heart is awake. This is what it means on Shabbos Kodesh. And he says that our neshama on Shabbos, our neshama is actually tuned into and is hearing and feeling everything. We don't realize it. We have this neshama yisera on Shabbos, and that neshama yisera, if we actually tune in to our own feelings and we pay attention, our neshama that we have on Shabbos is actually getting the messages and hearing. V'libi er on Shabbos, even though you think a person is sleeping, even though you think your heart is not hearing, your body is not hearing that voice that's coming out of Har Chayre, but on Shabbos, which is the root and the focal point of the entire week, on Shabbos you are tuned in. And it's actually in the letters of the word Shabbos too. You know, the letters Shin, Beis, and Tav stand for Shabbos, Boy, Tashuv. On Shabbos, Shabbos is the actual central day and the most important day where the tshuva aspect between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur takes place. So Shabbos Shuvah tells us that this Shabbos is the central point of the days of tshuva, because on Shabbos, V'libi er, you're getting those messages. You're getting those messages to wake up. You're getting those messages from Har Sinai. And the Medrash tells us something very, very interesting about Shabbos. The Medrash says that after Cain, Parshas Bereshis, we're going to learn it in a couple of weeks, after Cain killed Hevel, Cain was walking away. Cain went and he met Adam Arishain. Cain had just killed Hevel and he meets Adam Arishain. And Adam Arishain turns to Cain, says the Medrash, and Adam Arishain turns to Cain and says, what are we going to do with you? How are we going to judge you now? You just killed your own brother. You just killed Hevel. How are we going to judge you? What are we going to do with you? So listen to these fascinating words. Cain turns to Adam Arishain and he says the following words. Asisi tshuva, I did tshuva, v'nis pasharti. A loose translation means I did tshuva and I worked it out with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He's saying, Adam, Dad, you have nothing to worry about. You want to know what my judgment's going to be? You want to know what's going to happen to me now? Don't worry. I worked it out with God. So to speak, I did tshuva and I worked it out with Hashem. And when Adam Arishain heard that, like there was no such concept of doing tshuva, regretting doing tshuva, going back, erasing something that you did. When Adam Arishain heard that, Adam Arishain exclaimed, says the Medrash, this is the power of tshuva. Unbelievable that you're the power of tshuva. And Adam Arishain at that point exclaimed, when he heard that, he said, Mizmor Shir Liyoim HaShabbos. Two obvious questions here. First of all, what's this pshara? What did Cain mean when he was telling Adam Arishain, I worked it out with HaKadosh Baruch Hu? And what is the connection that Adam Arisha, when he was so fascinated by this idea of tshuva, that Adam Arisha declared Mizmor Shir Liyoim Shabbos? What does Shabbos? Okay, it was Taka Shabbos, but what did Shabbos have to do with this? With the fascination of the concept of tshuva. Why didn't Adam Arisha exclaim and declare something about tshuva? The answer is, says in Nesivos Shalom, it's in the words of the pasuk. The pasuk says, "Vayosem Hashem lakayin ois." Hashem gave Kayin at that point. He gave him a sign, and the Medrash Tanchuma tells us that you know what this sign was that Hashem gave Kayin. Hashem gave him this ois, the ois of Shabbos Kodesh. We know the Torah says, "Beinu bein Yisrael ois hi le'olam," that Shabbos is a sign, Shabbos is an ois, and Hashem gave that to Kayin. Hashem was telling Kayin that we're making the pshara right now. You know what that pshara was? The pshara is that even though during the entire week a person is confused and a person is subject to their temptations of Gashmias, but I'm going to give you on Shabbos a day that you can reconnect with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and you can return to HaKadosh Baruch Hu so much more easily, and the connection that you will receive and the connection that you will make with HaKadosh Baruch Hu will be that much stronger. And when Adam Arisha heard that there's a new concept, that on Shabbos it's not like during the week, that on Shabbos it's a special day. It comes to that day of Shabbos, you can reconnect with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. When Adam Arisha heard that, he said that is the koyach of tshuva, meaning that Shabbos is so powerful when it comes to tshuva, that on Shabbos Hashem is ready to put everything aside and reconnect with the person, all because of the koyach of Shabbos. So now it makes perfect sense when Adam Arisha heard that. He didn't just declare something about Teshuvah. Adam Arisha says, Mizmor Shir Liyoim Shabbos. We're going to sing a song. We're going to rejoice that we have such a concept, that we have such a day, that we have such an entity known as the Shabbos Kodesh. And now our point that we're trying to make follows suit. That Shabbos Shuvah, now we understand from the first week of creation, Shabbos Shuvah is the focal point of all days of Shuvah. Because on Shabbos, HaKadosh Baruch Hu made that pshara with Kayin. He made that pshara, that deal with the entire world, that no matter what you've done the entire week, and no matter where you've been the entire week, when it comes to Shabbos Kodesh, everything is different. Everything, it's like we feel, every person, if you tune in, you feel the serenity of Shabbos, the seriousness of Shabbos. The Shabbos Kodesh, where the connection that a person can have with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So when it comes to the days of Elul, and it comes to the days of Tishrei now, between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, the most important day, the day that is naturally predisposed for a person to reconnect and come back to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that is the day of Shabbos. And Adam Arisha knew it. Mizmor Shir Liyoim Shabbos. Shabbos is not the day of the Gashmias. Shabbos is the day of the neshama. Shabbos is the day where you can work with your neshama Yisera. You can work with your neshama Yisera and come all the way back. And let us understand that we can use this Shabbos. We're going to come tomorrow night. I know everybody's totally confused. It was hard for me to believe that it's Thursday night. We're giving the shir. For the next couple of weeks, it's going to be Shabbos, Yontif, Shabbos, Yontif. You're going to lose track. You're going to have to think a minute before you say Hayom, Yom, Rishon, Sheni, Shlishi. Everything's going to be very confusing. So don't lose sight of the fact that this tomorrow night is that Shabbos Kodesh. Tomorrow night is that special day, and your neshama Yisera on Shabbos Shuvah. Oh, how much you can do with that. And that is why we call it Shabbos Shuvah. Yes, also because the Haftarah begins with Shuvah Yisrael ad Hashem Alekecha, return to Hashem. But understand that on this Shabbos, we'll hear that voice from Har Chayre. On this Shabbos, we'll hear the voice of Shuvah, Uri Shenim Mishenaschem. We're going to hear all of that. And we should be zoiche to use this Shabbos. And I would like to wish everyone a Gemar Chesima Tova, a good Geben Shior, and all the best from us here at the Nesivos Shalom Shir to you at home.